Welcome back to this week's edition of Modern Tech and Transformation. I have with me again VP of Solution Architecture, Michael Brown. Thank you, Michael. And we have an exciting and rather complex episode today on IoT and edge computing. So this is something that's been trending in the past few years, and especially in 2024, I've heard a lot of talk about it. Let's start with, what does it even mean, Michael? IoT and edge.
Just ask me the meaning of life. IoT is Internet of Things, right? So when we talk about networking traditionally, we're thinking about computers and servers and desktops and laptops. The idea of IoT is really, there's a lot of sensors out there and there's a lot of devices out there that don't traditionally go on a local area network or a wide area network. And so, IoT is this idea of loosely coupled devices connected to a very large network. And it could be something as simple as temperature sensors in your air conditioning unit at home, right? Part of your home automation system. Or it could be as complex as a fully autonomous vehicle, right? Like a Tesla. Mm-hmm. All of those things are IoT devices. There's fast food restaurants that in context, right, they treat their entire restaurant as an IoT device, like all the data in it. It can work online, it can work offline, but the telemetry always gets delivered back. So, when you think about that, and then I guess the other side of that is edge. Well, I think that's all about the context. When we all had our own data centers and we all had our own, on-premise, data sets, and all of our servers were inside of our businesses. Well, we were already at the edge, right? The edge was at the edge of the business. And I guess, when we talk about edge computing today, it's in the context of cloud. So we've got so many things in cloud, especially with with data and analytics and machine learning. So the edge is, we run things in the cloud and we run things at the edge, and a lot of things play into consideration for that. We've got latency, we've got safety, we've got anything in industry, right? There's certain things that have to stay there on premises, and then sometimes things can go to the cloud, sometimes they can't. So we're really starting to architect solutions in the idea of, where does it run? Where can it run? Is it cloud? Is it edge? Is it hybrid? IoT and edge use cases can be really complicated, or they can be really simple. But it's really cool being able to architect these types of solutions.
Well, you teed up the next point: use cases. Let's talk through some of them. What does that look like?
Well, so again, I'm going to use my solutions architect answer. It depends, because it's a lot of different things. So for healthcare, right, IoT devices are the patient monitors in the room. It's the HVAC system. It's the boilers, that give us the hot water. For the manufacturing facility, it's the electrical system. It's all the devices that's on the manufacturing plant. For an autonomous car, it's all the sensors inside of the car. So it can be pretty much anything, right? For building out these solutions. And really what they all hold in common is this: IoT devices normally need to be able to work online and offline. Mm-hmm. They're not, you can't always assume 100% network connectivity, which is, in a LAN environment, in a traditional enterprise network, you do assume that, right? For the most part. If your LAN goes down or your network goes down, your device doesn't work as well. For IoT devices and edge devices, we need to be able for that to continue running as normal. And then when the network is restored, then data continues to flow. Like all the data that was before, that was stored up, it's going to flow out, and then all the new data is going to continue going as well. We call that store and forward, right? That's a super important component of IoT. And we also have to, assume that those devices are going to have the capabilities, right, to be able to do integration with things at the edge. And so, when it comes to that, we have to start looking at security. We've worked with some clients. I will name no names or give no industries, but they have assets that are on the public internet. they're critical assets, right? They're things that you wouldn't normally think is on the public internet, but they're protected through obscurity, right? It's security through obscurity. And so these are things. This is what happens when you start deploying edge and IoT devices without a full plan. I got to have connectivity, right? And instead of the traditional way, how we would have done it 25 years ago, is we would run a line out there, or we would do a wireless point to point, and that would still be private. Now we're using cell modems, we're using the LTE network and the 5G networks, we're using Starlink satellite, and all of that is on the public internet. So you end up in this situation to when you don't plan it out, you do it organically and you move fast, you have critical assets on the public internet. So that's happening every day in reality. And so those are the types of things that, when you're talking about use cases that you go, maybe we should do better.
Just slow down,
Yeah.
think it through, get an expert.
And do the work,
Yes.
right? Do the work. There's no magic. You'll hear me say this all the time, a lot of times in technology. There's no magic. Sometimes you just got to do the work. And sometimes the work is hard, sometimes the work is inconvenient, but you have to do the work to do the solution right.
So IoT's been around for quite a while.
Yeah.
Computing on-prem, in the cloud, it's been around for quite a while. So on the edge, computing, things like that. How are these becoming increasingly intertwined?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of things that kind of pop into my brain about, how they're getting more intertwined. Number one is the variety of compute platforms that we have. I guess a long time ago, we just had computers, right? And you had a computer and you hooked it up. Then we had Raspberry Pis, and then we had embedded computers, and now we have little Arduino and ESP devices. Now we have cell phones. People are using old cell phones as IoT platforms, like data collection. Now we're making, there's a lot of vendors putting out devices that have their compute on board, that do vibration and temperature and heat, or not temperature and I'm brain blanking, like pressure and those types of things. Like the variety of devices are coming out so that all of your lighting, like your Hue lighting, all of your Amazon Basics lighting, all of your LED strips, like it's all part of IoT networks.
Yeah.
You bring them on. Like what happens with your Hue lighting when your Wi-Fi network goes down? Nothing. It still operates like a light, but you just lose a little bit of functionality. When the Wi-Fi router comes back online, everything works like it's supposed to, right? So the variety of compute platforms and the variety of ways that we can get data now is just a lot. And anytime we have so many options, it introduces complexity. And so one of the things that we do in our practice is we help customers to understand what their options are, and based on the use case, because we don't know what it is all the time. Is it an industrial use case? Do you need NEMA rating? Do you need protections? What are the use cases, and then we can help drive towards the types of devices that are necessary. And then if you're doing IoT, it's really because you want data. A lot of times we see in these types of projects, and we call them digital transformation projects, or we call them Industry 4.0 type projects. We see customers, everybody gets excited about collecting data. Everybody gets excited about building the network and getting everything put together. But then once they get it done, they're like, okay, now we're collecting data. And that's not the whole point. You didn't want to build a solution to collect data. You wanted to build a solution to,
solve a problem.
Like, so for example, we worked on a project where we were collecting data for cold storage. The type of company that trucks, food and pharmaceuticals, and their different distribution locations are basically giant refrigerators. They want to know when the refrigerators are getting too warm, right? They want to know if doors are open. They want to know when the compressors are running, how long they're running, how long they've ran since if they're running long and the temperature is not responding. Like all this type of stuff is what they're looking for. And today they do it with clipboards. There's sensors there. And so we went through a project and we collected a bunch of data on these. We got like 16 sites located, and they're like, we're collecting data. And then we came back to them several months later, and I say, okay, well, what did you do? Well, nothing. We've got it though. We've got the data. And you have to take it one step further. If you're doing IoT and you're doing edge and you're collecting the data and you've gone through all of that work, take the next step and build, context around that data, build, at least alarms around the data, and create actions and activities for people to go and do something, right? Make a decision, make something happen.
And we recently did a webinar on IoT and edge synergies. So we're just scraping the surface of this topic. If you would like to learn more, go to our YouTube channel and definitely check out that webinar. It is on there. But I know this issue gets a lot more in depth than this, Michael.
Yes.
But I want to thank you for coming on and just scraping the surface. And I invite you once again to check out the webinar if you want to learn more.
Yep.